am 27 years old. Unfortunately, I lost my parents at a young age due to a car accident. Since I didn't have any relatives to take care of me, I was placed in an orphanage. I stayed there for about 3 years until I was adopted by a wealthy couple. They preferred to keep my adoption private and not make a big fuss about it. They were kind-hearted individuals who wanted to do good without seeking attention. As I grew up and got my own place, my adoptive parents decided to expand their business by exploring opportunities in Europe. It was during this time that I met Patrick, who is now my ex-husband. We crossed paths in college and quickly developed a liking for each other after a few conversations. Patrick was a cheerful and caring person, which made me grow even fonder of him. Our dates eventually led to us becoming an official couple. Although we had a great relationship, there was one issue. Patrick's family did not approve of me. When I first met them, Patrick and I had just graduated from college. He waited until we were both settled in our careers before introducing me to his parents. He had warned me that his parents could be judgmental when it came to their children's partners, so he wanted me to make the best impression possible. I didn't mind if I were to be completely truthful. I despised the experience of meeting my partner's parents. It was an anxiety-inducing ordeal, and if given the choice, I would opt to postpone it repeatedly. By the time Patrick introduced me to his parents, we had been in a relationship for a solid 4 years. Within those 4 years, we also became engaged. Naturally, this posed a potential issue for his parents, since they had never even had the chance to get to know me as his girlfriend. I recall panicking about it with Patrick the day before our scheduled meeting with his parents. "They will despise me, Patrick." "No, I assure you they won't." "Don't you think they'll be taken aback when they discover we're engaged?" "Well, yes, but I don't believe it will be such a significant matter." "Are you being serious right now? You were anxious about introducing me to them because you know how judgmental they can be, and you believe that introducing me as your fiancé won't further contribute to their judgment. Listen, even if they do judge, will their opinions truly hold any weight? To me, they won't matter, but I'm uncertain about your perspective. You always appear cautious around them. I guarantee you that their opinions won't affect or concern me in the slightest, Ingrid." "All right, if you say so. However, do you think perhaps we should withhold the information about our engagement and then reveal it a month or so later? Would that alleviate your concerns regarding this entire situation? Because I have no objections to either option. I believe we should keep it a secret, just in case. I am willing to do whatever it takes to make a good impression on them. There's nothing to be concerned about. I will accompany you regardless of the circumstances." "Thank you, darling." The sole reason for my excessive worry was that whenever I suggested Patrick inform his parents about our relationship, he would create a whole fuss about them not approving of me. Now, at this point, I started to somewhat comprehend why. You see, Patrick's family was quite affluent, and they enjoyed living luxuriously. They desired the same for their children, and the only way they would accept their children dating someone was if that person was equally or even more wealthy. The way I was living back then was certainly not considered wealthy by their standards. I hadn't disclosed information about my family to Patrick because I didn't see the necessity in doing so. Furthermore, by the time I realized why he was so insistent on not letting me introduce myself to his parents, I felt that it was even more unnecessary for them to know who my father was. I wanted them to like me for who I am, not for my financial status. Naively, I believed that they would appreciate me in that way. But oh boy, was I mistaken. We decided to meet Patrick's parents at an upscale restaurant at that time. Patrick held my hand as we entered. I wore my engagement ring on a necklace, as I wanted to keep it with me without drawing attention to it. When we arrived at our table, his parents already appeared displeased. Patrick warned me to expect this, as they were very strict about punctuality, and we had arrived precisely 2 minutes late. Well, we were already off to a rocky start. Commencement. His parents examined me briefly and contorted their faces in repulsion. They proceeded to disregard my presence for a short while as they engaged in conversation with Patrick. I must confess, I felt quite insignificant in their eyes. The more they ignored me, the stronger my desire grew to depart. I mostly kept my gaze lowered until finally Patrick redirected his parents' attention towards me. "Mother, father, it is not appropriate to solely converse with me. Allow me to introduce my remarkable companion, Ingrid." "Ah, greetings. It is a delight to make your acquaintance. Friend Ingrid." "Ah, greetings. It is a delight to make your acquaintance." I wish I could express the same sentiment, Mother." "What? I am merely speaking the truth." "So, Ingrid, I heard that you and Patrick encountered each other during your time at university. Is that correct?" "Yes, indeed. We happened to share a few classes together." "Ah, and how did you manage to attend this prestigious institution?" "As far as I know, the tuition is quite steep and admission is rather difficult." "Father, that will suffice." "Patrick, you will not address your father in such a manner. He is posing a valid inquiry." "Ingrid, please provide him with an answer." "Well, I received a full scholarship. I am immensely grateful for the opportunity to study there, because not only did I acquire a wealth of knowledge, but I also had the fortune of meeting Patrick, which has been one of the most wonderful experiences in my life." "Naturally, it is one of the most marvelous things that has occurred to you. He possesses considerable wealth, and you are in need of such resources. At least you possess intelligence, for your physical appearance is not particularly attractive. You know what? That is sufficient. We are departing. Let us go, Ingrid." Patrick grasped my hand tightly as we walked away. I was taken aback by the way his parents had treated me. It was hard to believe that people could be so cruel and blatant about it. I was too stunned to process my emotions. The car ride back home was filled with silence as Patrick seethed with anger. Once we arrived home, Patrick made sure to check on me and see if I was all right. Honestly, in that moment, I didn't know how to feel. I had dressed nicely and behaved politely, yet Paula and Marley still judged me without a word from me. Patrick distanced himself from his parents for a while after that incident. They sent him text messages, accusing us of disrespecting them by leaving during lunch. Patrick chose not to respond and only contacted them about a month later to announce our engagement. His parents were not pleased, but Patrick threatened to cut off contact if they said or did anything against me. They offered to pay for our wedding, but only if they had complete control over the decisions. Naturally, neither Patrick nor I wanted that, so we decided to elope instead. My parents were in Europe at the time, and they knew about our plan. They were just happy that I was happy, and they even sent us a gift. Patrick raised an eyebrow at the expensive painting they sent, but I dismissed it as their way of showing their support. After having the opportunity to spend some money, my spouse and I encountered Paula and Marley at a gathering they had organized. They graciously invited us to celebrate their wedding anniversary. To be honest, I was quite pleased that they extended an invitation to me, despite their dislike for me. Upon arrival, I found myself being completely ignored by everyone in attendance. If being ignored by 2 individuals was awkward, being ignored by approximately 30 people was even more disheartening. I stuck close to Patrick throughout the evening, but no one made an effort to engage with me. Whenever I attempted to initiate conversation, people either glanced at me dismissively, walked away, or continued conversing with Patrick as if I hadn't spoken at all. By the end of the night, tears welled up in my eyes. I felt humiliated and utterly disgusted by the behavior exhibited by everyone present. Towards the conclusion of the event, the crowd requested that Paula and Marley deliver a speech. By that point, I was exhausted and eager to return home. However, their speech began with expressing gratitude for nearly everyone in the room, except for me. This was just the first of many jabs they took at me, which the guests found amusing. At a certain point, I couldn't bear it any longer and decided to leave. I called for an Uber and headed home, crying the entire journey until Patrick arrived back. Upon his return, he appeared upset and angry. "Why did you leave like that? Do you realize how embarrassing it was for me? What? What are you referring to? Regarding? Don't act ignorant with me at this moment, Ingrid. I had to endure my parents shouting at me and many of the attendees feeling sorry for me because of my association with you. Are you serious? What about how humiliating it was for me? Oh, come on, Ingrid. You could have handled it for one evening. It was my parents' anniversary, for goodness sake. I was completely ignored by everyone, and your parents decided to further mock me during their toast. How can you possibly expect me to be fine with something like that? I'm not saying what they did was justified, but you could have endured it, and we could have addressed it later. What would that have done for me? I dislike being put in situations where I am only humiliated. Everyone was laughing at me. You've never experienced that before, so it's easy for you to dismiss it as insignificant. My parents are expecting an apology from you. I want one too. Unfortunately, I won't be doing that. I will only apologize if they offer me one as well. As for your apology, I see no reason to apologize to you. You've always defended me. I don't understand why this is any different. This is very different because, unlike before, you embarrassed my family in front of all our guests. And your parents humiliated me, their daughter-in-law, in front of all the attendees. Perhaps my parents were right about you. You're impossible. With that, Patrick went to sleep in the guest bedroom. I couldn't comprehend why he had suddenly changed his behavior. Was it really that terrible for him after I left? He was always the first individual to advocate for me, particularly considering the fact that I was usually disinterested in whatever his parents had to say about me. It should have been a clear indicator of how poorly they made me feel when I decided to leave, but Patrick seemed unconcerned about that. Patrick did not communicate with me for the following week. Additionally, I received numerous messages from his parents labeling me as ungrateful and an embarrassment. I attempted to speak with Patrick, but he refused. Eventually, I made the decision to give in and apologize to both him and his parents. Even though it felt humiliating, I was willing to endure it because I loved Patrick and did not want this issue to be the one that ended our relationship. However, things only worsened for me after that. Patrick's parents retired and began hosting frequent family dinners. They held these gatherings once a week, and Patrick was always invited. The first time they hosted, Patrick brought me along to their house. As soon as I entered, the atmosphere in the room became uncomfortable. Paula was occupied with preparations, so she did not notice me immediately. But Marley and the rest of Patrick's siblings awkwardly glanced at me. They did not engage in conversation with me, and Patrick left me standing by myself while he caught up with the rest of his family. When Paula came downstairs and saw me, she approached me in a fit of rage. "Why are you here? Pardon me? No, I will not pardon you. What is the reason behind your presence in my house at this moment?" "Well, you invited us for dinner." "Incorrect. I invited Patrick because it is a family gathering, evening meal. I am Patrick's spouse, so I am a member of this family, right? Definitely not. A person without parents like yourself does not deserve a place in this family." "What? Did you think you could conceal this information from us? We thoroughly investigate the backgrounds of our children's partners, and you are nowhere near the same level as my son. I will never accept you here. Why not? That cannot be the sole factor in determining whether I become a part of your family. You are unattractive and financially disadvantaged. You would never fit into our exclusive social circles. I never want to see you again. Why are you being so shallow? Are you afraid that my mere existence will tarnish your reputation? Does the fact that I bring happiness to your son not satisfy you? If happiness brought wealth, many people would be billionaires. This is precisely why you would never fit in with us. Or perhaps I will never be as shallow as the rest of you, because I value a person's true character. You never even took the opportunity to get to know me before passing judgment on me. I am glad that I do not fit in with you. Ingrid, that is enough. Here is some money. Use it to get an Uber and leave. I stared at Patrick in disbelief as he handed me the money. He forcefully placed the money in my hands and turned back to face his mother. She smirked at me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I turned around and walked away. Once again, I found myself crying in the Uber. I did not understand why Patrick had changed so drastically. Was this his way of appeasing his parents after the party? Whatever it was, I felt hurt and angry towards him. Were content to use my past against me and defend them instead of supporting me, as he usually did. I had the urge to shout and scream, but I knew that would only worsen their perception of me and prove them right. That's why I chose to walk away. I tried to analyze if anything I said was inappropriate, but I genuinely couldn't find any fault. I was simply standing up for myself, in a calm manner, I must add. When Patrick returned home, he resumed his silence towards me. My heart was breaking, and I felt incredibly lonely. I knew he expected me to apologize again, but I couldn't bring myself to do it like I did last time. Paula had insulted me in the most disrespectful way, and yet Patrick was angry at me for it. If anything, I believed I deserved an apology from him. For the following 2 weeks, Patrick and I didn't exchange a single word. It was challenging at first, but I eventually grew accustomed to the silence. The family dinners continued as usual, and approximately once a week, I found myself alone at home. Honestly, I didn't mind it. On one of those lonely nights, my parents video called me. "Hey honey," my dad greeted. "Hey sweetie, how's everything going?" added my mom. "Hey dad, hey mom, things aren't going well," I replied. "What's wrong, sweetie? If there's anything we can do to help, don't hesitate to ask," they've reassured me. "I don't think this is something you guys can assist me with, but thanks for offering." "Where's Patrick? Isn't he helping?" I explained. "That's the issue. He's actually part of the problem," I revealed. "Huh? Sweetie, could you please clarify what the problem is?" my mom questioned. "Well, his parents, what on earth, are perfectly comfortable in their privileged social circles, so they compelled to recount the instances in which I was subjected to humiliation by certain individuals upon each encounter. Goodness gracious. Furthermore, during my most recent visit to Patrick's residence, his mother audaciously resorted to labeling me as an orphan, deeming it an appropriate insult. Oh, that woman. I am filled with an overwhelming urge to retaliate against her for daring to refer to my beloved child as an orphan. Do they not possess any knowledge about our circumstances? And what on earth has Patrick been doing amidst all of this? I refrained from disclosing information about all of you because I anticipated a change in their perception of me, desiring them to appreciate me for who I truly am, rather than solely focusing on my wealth. As for Patrick, he has aligned himself with them, believing that my actions in defending myself were disrespectful. Darling, are you absolutely certain that this is the individual you wish to be in a relationship with? Although I harbor deep affection for him, this is not the manner in which I envision our connection. We have not engaged in any form of communication over the past fortnight, and surprisingly, I find myself content with this arrangement. Rest assured, we can arrange for the finest legal representation for you. Simply express your consent, all right? In fact, I believe I will require your assistance in this matter. I have reached my limit with all of this. Very well, my dear, I shall connect you with one of my acquaintances in that vicinity. Regarding your concerns about our ability to aid you, I believe we may indeed be capable of facilitating a measure of sweet retribution on your behalf. Pardon me? What do you mean by that? Your father and I have made plans to visit there next week. Initially, we intended to include both you and Patrick in a vacation, but now we can solely focus on your enjoyment. It appears we will have a multitude of activities to engage in together. Truly, oh my goodness, I am overwhelmed with excitement at the prospect of finally meeting the two of you in person once more. This news has provided me with a much-needed boost. Finally, I experienced a sense of upliftment. After a long time, I felt a sense of happiness. The three of us continued conversing for a short while after that. My father explained his plan to assist me after some time. He inquired about the location of these dinners, which, to my knowledge, were held alternately at their house and at restaurants. Conveniently, the dinner during the week my parents were visiting was scheduled to take place at a restaurant. I needed to obtain the exact details of the dinner's location so I could inform my parents. Fortunately, I had access to Patrick's email on my phone, and I knew that Paula and Marley enjoyed sending emails with all the necessary information. It wasn't difficult to acquire the location, which I promptly shared with my parents. Meanwhile, a lawyer friend of my mother contacted me, and we began the process of filing for divorce. When my parents arrived in the country, they decided to check into their hotel, where I met them. We had lunch together, and then they treated me to a spa day, fully covering the expenses because they believed I deserved it. While they prepared to confront my in-laws, my parents entered the restaurant where Patrick and his family were dining. According to my father, upon approaching the table, Marley and Paula started whispering among themselves as they recognized him. My mother recounted the conversation to me. She greeted them and exclaimed, "Hello. Oh my goodness, Mr. Burns, what brings you here? I happened to come across some familiar individuals and thought I could visit and have a meal with you. Who are these familiar faces you speak of? Mr. Burns? Ah, I see Patrick. Well, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. My daughter has mentioned you quite a bit, but speaking of her, where is she? Your daughter? I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't believe she is here. But she should be, right? I'm sorry, Mr. Burns, but we were not aware that you had a daughter. Of course I do, and she is married to Patrick. What? I'm sorry, but I think you are mistaken. Yes, his wife's name is Ingrid, and she was an orphan. Yes, I am aware of that, which is why we adopted her. Excuse me? You're her father? Yes, and from what I can see, she is not here. She has been telling me that there have been some issues with her in-laws, and now I understand what the problem was. It was you. No, she was the one who kept this significant information from us. If we had known, we would have treated her better. She didn't want you to treat her nicely because of her background. Oh well, she did ask me to give this to Patrick. My father handed Patrick the legal documents for their divorce and left. After that, it only took a few phone calls for many investors to withdraw their support from Marley's business. They quickly started to decline, and it was satisfying to witness their downfall after they had mocked others. I received numerous messages from Patrick's family, hurling insults at me, while some of them pleaded with me to talk to my father and undo what he had done. Completed. Patrick gratefully approved the legal documents for separation without any difficulty. Following that, my parents and I embarked on an extended holiday. I experienced moments of pure joy and gradually started to recover. Although it was painful to lose the person I loved, I also realized the significance of asserting my own worth. I am eternally appreciative of my parents for their unwavering support, and I eagerly anticipate the opportunities that lie ahead in life.